Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the rod shop. Today we're going to keep working on the Finesse jerkbait rod, so y'all stick around. Alright, well here we are, day number 2 of the Finesse jerkbait rod. And given the response to the first video I did, I'm going to go through step by step exactly what I'm doing as we're getting the guide layout and the guides installed. So let's go. Alright, first thing I want to do is I'm going to take it out of my power wrapper here. And for these small diameter blanks especially, I like using the micro guide bands. I get them at Mud Hole. They're just tiny little rubber bands. Now here's how I install them. First of all, I need my glasses because I can't see them. There we go. So I'm just going to hold some pressure on the back of it. And it slides on, and I'm going to pull it down the blank a good ways, and then I'm just going to tear it off. Now we're going to do that about 8 times. We probably won't need 8 guides on this 6'4" rod, but you never know, and it's a lot easier to put them on now and just abandon them and cut them loose later than to try to hold down one of these smaller guides with some tape. So that's 3, 4, probably put 9 on. Maybe with this small diameter blank, maybe I can get the stripper guide to hold with one of them. Usually I have to tape that one. So these bands are a little small for that. There we go. Alright, so now we've got our micro bands on, rubber bands on. We'll stick it back in the power wrapper here. Now, since the last time you saw this rod, I did go ahead and put the first coat of epoxy on the carbon fiber grips and over the thread work that we're using as basically an under wrap and some accent color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in dry mode just because it holds it. It's very stiff when it's in dry mode, and the rod won't have a tendency to turn as much. So I'm playing with this cardboard. When you guys start looking at the overhead shot, I think you'll be a lot less blurry, be able to see more of what I'm doing. So you guys put a comment below if you think this helps, and if not, if you got a suggestion, I'll take that too. First thing we want to do is we want to get our guides out, and I'm using the LZR kit, the LZR casting guide set, and we're going to put our stripper guide in about the right location. I've already got my tip top. Now the tip top is a 5.5 tube, 5 ring. We'll put that on in a little bit. We're going to set this down here, and then we're going to start with a basic layout as far as guide spacing, and then we'll put it on the static load tester and we'll adjust. I think that's critical. I've never built this blank at this length, so the rod may perform a little differently than a standard, but what we're going to do is what amounts to a 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and then 20 up from the reel seat, and we'll adjust once we get it in the load tester. So I'll get started on that. Now how I do that is I use my little tiny needle nose pliers with the tape on the teeth, and I'm going to use my pick, which is this one here that I have ground flat on this side, and this side is still rounded. So how I put these guides in is I'm going to pull a guide, and yes, the air conditioner just kicked in. I hope I can get rid of this noise because I can't turn it off today. It is way too hot outside, and I'll be roasting in here. So let's get tape measure out. I'll line it up with my tip top. Slide you guys down. Y'all can see what I'm doing, maybe. I'm lining up with where my tip top is going to be, and I'm going to go to about 3 inches. And then about 4 inches past that, it should be 7, and then 5 would be 12. And then 9 would be 21. And then we'll do 13 past that. Which should give us this one. And then I get 2 for the stripper and transition guide. Let's see how that works out. Okay, so we're going to take our guide and our pick, slide this down just to give it a little support. Slide this one down. Okay. Take your pick. This is how I do it. And I'm going to lay it flat on the blank behind the rubber band, and I'm going to move the rubber band. I'm not going to move the pick because I don't want to scratch the blank. And now my little hook is underneath the rubber band. I'll take my guide, hold it in the pliers, and I'm going to slide it, maybe. I'm going to pull a little gap, and I'm going to slide it underneath. Now it's on the blank. Same thing with the 4. Oops. Yep. I committed a mistake already. This guide I pulled first, which I should not have, is my actual transition guide. So I'm going to pull that one back out. I'm going to stick the other one in first. I'll pull my transition guide back out. I knew that looked a little big. That one's going down there. So let's put the next running guide in. Pull a little gap, slide underneath. Don't worry about lining these up yet. We're just trying to get them on the blank. This one's stuck in here. This is where the blank's starting to get a little bigger, so the rubber bands are fitting a little tighter. It's a little more complicated to get them in. Alright, so I'm going to go from about where the end of the reel will be. I'm coming out about 20 inches. For my stripper guide, which we're going to leave that one in place there. Slide this one back. Probably will wind up taping this one, because this one can be a bear to get the band. Okay. And then this is a little long. Got a measurement off here somewhere. And then we'll put our transition guide in here, which is going to be a little close, I think. But we won't know till we get it under the load test. Oops. Okay, now we've got stripper guide, transition guide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Running guides, we may need to add another one, but that's why I've got extra rubber band in here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just get it roughly lined up. So stripper guide is going to be on top. This is a left-hand spiral. So the transition guide is going to be 90 degrees left, which it may not stay there, but that's where we're going to start. And then the running guides will be on the bottom of the rod. And then the last thing I'll do before I do my load test is I'm going to put the tip top on here. So I'm going to make sure that my trigger is straight up. I got my tip top, I got a lighter, I got tip top glue. Now, take your lighter, this one's about toast. And you're going to heat your tip top glue, but you're not going to put it in the flame. Get it nice and melted. And then you're just going to go around the tip top. And I like leaving a pretty good glob on it. And if you got a string, best way to get rid of it is a lighter. Now I'm going to warm this up again. And take my tip top. And I'm going to scoop a little bit of the glue that's melted into the tip top. And then I'm sliding it on. I'm going to slide it on all the way. And then I want to make sure it is straight up. And then before that glue sets, pulls off, I'm going to grab it just with a fingernail, and it did not set on there very well, so we are going to redo that. You should not be able to do that. That's not good. So let's try this again. We're going to heat it. Scoop a little inside, and then I'm going to push it on, get it straight up, align with the trigger. This looks like about right there. And then as soon as the glue stops doing that, you want to grab it. And now it's still warm, but it's not stringy. I'm going to grab it with a fingernail and just peel it off, the excess off. And it comes off clean, just like that. If you wait, it gets a little stringy and sticky, and it's just more of a pain to clean up. So now that we have all the guides in place temporarily, or at least all the guides that we think we're going to need, I'm going to slide power wrapper back out of my way. I'm going to grab my homemade static tester, which is this contraption. It's just a piece of PVC and 2 short pieces of plywood cut at about a 30-degree angle. I got some pieces of styrofoam or foam that I use just to tighten up on the rod. And then I've got a clamp that I'm going to use to clamp it down on the table right here. Keep it from moving. Get it out of the power wrapper. I'm going to get it stuck in here. Stuff some styrofoam pieces in there. Okay. Now I got, this is called a guide alignment tool. And what I've done is I've got some 20-pound yellow Power Pro braid just because it's easy to see. And this height here is about the same as most low profile reels. So I've got my line taped to it just like it would be a reel. You can put a reel on, it does the same thing. This is just easier for me. So I'm going to put this in a reel seat just like it's going in a reel. And then all I've got to do is thread this out. Just like you're stringing a rod for fishing. A little bit of tip-top glue that didn't come off. Let's clean that up later. Okay, then, whoops. I've got a smaller clamp that I have modified. I cut a groove in it just to make this a little easier so I can do it by myself. And so I'm going to wrap it through the groove. That's the wrong one. No, it is the wrong one. Oh. Yep, that's the right one. So I cut a groove in the top of this, so when I wrap the line around it, it'll stay. So I'm just going to go around it once, and in that groove, And then I just clamp that to my table as well. And I'll pull my tension back. And clamp it down tight. Okay, now what we have is coming off the reel. I'm going to rotate this stripper guide off axis, the opposite direction of the wrap, the spiral wrap, just to make sure that the line is coming down the top dead center of the blank. So that when you're retrieving the line on the reel, if it's not top dead center, it's going to stack line on one side or the other of a casting reel. This takes most of that out. Top dead center there. Okay, now we've got this one in place. Now what I'm looking for is a smooth transition around the blank. So this one's not very smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this one back off of 90 a little bit. And then the first running guide, we're actually going to rotate it back just a hair. And so now I have a fairly smooth transition going around the blank. And now what I'm looking for is not a lot of angle between, or angle differences between your blank and your line. And what I can see here is this guide needs to pull back quite a bit. I'm sliding the guide and the rubber band at the same time. And that's moved this one obviously. And I like the way these three work together. So what I'm going to wind up doing is adding a guide here. So I'll get my guides back out and my pick. I'm going to add a running guide in here. Now we'll just let the line loose. Be careful you don't let it go flying, because it will sling guides everywhere. And I'm going to restring this to include this guide, this running guide. Table. Okay, now I like that a lot better. Now we're going to slide this one back a little bit. Now that's a pretty good load on this rod. I mean, this is a medium light, extra fast tip, but that's a good load. Got a very slight angle there, slight. That's got a little more. And there you go. That's how I do the load test. Now, every blank is going to be a little bit different. You're building the same blank, same length, same handle. You can pretty much use a previous rod as an example. And in fact, if you're building your first medium heavy rod that's 7 foot and you have a medium heavy 7 footer that you like, that's a good place to start. They don't all act the same, and medium heavy from one manufacturer doesn't mean exactly the same as medium heavy from another manufacturer, but they're going to be close. It's close enough to start, but then make sure you do a load test. Now, let's get this out of here. All right, now I will give you my guide layout for a 6'4", 6406 blank, and the top 4 guides are probably going to be the same, no matter what you what length you cut it to. So here is the guide layout. So the first guide is at 2 3/4. The second guide is at 4 1/4. The third guide is at 12 1/2. The fourth guide is at 17 3/4. The fifth guide is at 23 1/2. 31 3/4. Your transition guide is at 38. And your stripper guide is at 46, but again, that's usually right at 20 from your reel seat, or from the front part of your reel where your line guide is in your testing reel, and that's right on 20 there. So that is the basics of getting your guides laid out. It's actually a lot more in detail than basic, but that's how you do a static load test. Get your spacing exactly right, and that way the performance of your rod is going to be maximized. So that's all I got today for this. We're going to start wrapping next, and I'll show you. We're going to use a metallic red. This one, very shiny. This is what's underneath the epoxy here. You can see that it has a little different color to it once you put epoxy on it, so it does change a little bit. That's a little brighter red. I actually like this better with epoxy on it. And then we'll get the guides wrapped, and we'll put labels on and do the final coats of epoxy. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.